you got to do what's right for you in your own voice. And if people like it, great. If people don't, okay, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Because there's enough room for everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think what I love about a lot of people who are moving into consultancy and doing consultancy and hospitality at the moment, we're all in our own space, and that's okay. It's like I kind of don't want to do what they're doing either, and they probably don't want to do what I'm trying to do. But I just learn about the right type of voicing, the right type of. But then it was the tools that I could then link to that to be able to create that content.
Welcome to Captive Conversations, brought to you by Captive Wi-Fi. I'm your host, Adam Foreman. This podcast brings you the best stories from suppliers, marketers, and operators from our beloved hospitality sector. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone. I have the pleasure of having Gary Digby, and we've met online and in person earlier.
This morning, yeah.
And it's officially in person in the podcast studio / break room. Thank you for coming. Gary Digby from Digby and Fox. With your new website that's launched.
That's right.
And you've been killing it on LinkedIn, which is amazing. So, and the imagery is just, I think the imagery thing is something that really does it. So
Thank you.
You can tell other people how some tips on how to do it later. But thank you for coming. We're going to start with the two questions from Lee Niles, who was actually here yesterday. Mm-hmm. And his first question was, if there was one bit of tech that you could remove, what would you do, or what would it be?
Well, I think it's weird because I'm out a lot on my own. Is I tend to kind of go and eat on my own. Particularly when I've got a bit of time. So I love interactions with people. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just want a bit of kind of headphones in. I want to do the order from my phone and just get that kind of journey from the team. Then at the same time, get my food, off I go.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than a clunky ordering system. There's no interaction, but also I went to a really wonderful premium restaurant. I won't say who they are. The other day, and basically I did the full order, went through the full journey, ordered everything. Table number was wrong. Yeah. But then I actually had to go to the bar and pay.
Oh, what?
And I was just like, hang on, like what is the point of me doing everything like this and then to actually have to then go up and actually finish the transaction anyway? Yeah. So that is the biggest bugbear in the world for me, something along those lines. I want something that's really seamless, it's really easy, so I can just go in, go out, and then off I go. So, but I think also as well, the killer of the world is I can often be on trains quite a lot, and I know it's not quite hospotech, but I think Wi-Fi on trains, let's just bring it up and just throw it out the bin. So it's I sometimes will have to go up to Manchester or Sheffield with some of the clients I'm working with at the moment. So I've got 2.5 hours to be able to do some work, and it is so bitty all the way through that I just can't get anything done.
I was talking to someone else the other day, who's doing their ordering solution, and because the trains just disconnect at different stations, you won't always have the same pieces of the same train throughout. So they might go to the next stop, and then the three at the end will just dock and be pulled off. Yeah. And then they'll be told to move, and they'll move on to the next one, and so how do you? So then even for the Wi-Fi, I think the only connection is that touch piece. Mm-hmm. How do they even? It really blows my mind on how they even can do it. I think
I've discovered an app called SeatFrog. Yeah. I don't know if you know it, but it's basically you can upgrade your seat. Yeah. So if you're basically sitting in coach like you normally would, you can bid or kind of straight out buy an upgrade on pretty cheaply. Yeah. So on average, any upgrade that I've got has been between £7 and £10.
Oh, shut up!
Yeah, no, it's a first class.
Hold on, SeatFrog,
yeah.
Okay.
So,
SeatFrog,
everybody. But it's
I love that. I went to Birmingham about 6 months ago, and it wasn't that busy. I ended up just sitting in first class, which I shouldn't have done because it was very naughty. Yeah, I was standing for about 20 minutes, and I wish I could have done that. That would have been.
But it's just the wind. But then the only downside is, yes, you've got your space and you get a free coffee, but you still don't have any Wi-Fi. So that's the worst part. So you got all that space ready to do work. Yeah, can't be done. Yeah. I
think I wish they need like Starlink on the roof or something.
They need something.
Yeah. Well, Starlink. I wish Starlink was much more compact now. Yeah. They're getting small. They're about this big. The units. They're really small. So I think as technology changes, there's millions of satellites out there.
Well, I even bought a ZTE kind of mobile Wi-Fi kind of expander, whatever you want to call it. And yes, it's helped infinitely. But even still, if there's no 5G.
Yeah,
I can't really kind of.
As you're going through the countryside, there's nothing.
Yeah.
The farmer. Okay, fine. So there's two pieces. There's two pieces.
2 pieces. Sorry about that.
Two pieces. No, it's all good. So it'd be nice if you can go into like those meeting pods. Mm-hmm. It's like you go into a meeting pod, you close the door, and then you order your food, and it just gets popped through.
That'd be the dream.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think you can sort of probably do that at Brewdog and Waterloo. It's a bit noisy. Yeah. But you can probably just their ordering piece sort of does work, and they will just leave you alone. And you can get on with it.
I think as well is there's times where I want complete interaction with people, and there's times when I don't. If I go out with my partner, like we want the full journey.
Yeah.
But often when I'm kind of, not that I'm completely insular, but you're the same, right? You're often out, so it's literally you only have an hour or less, or even 30 minutes. So you want to be in.
I want to use the tech,
but I still also want to be in a nice environment. And again, also I don't want to be annoyed. I don't want to annoy the team by kind of going, this isn't working. So just make it work. It's really simple. Really simple.
Have the conversation afterwards.
I will. Absolutely.
Okay. If you could have a burger or a drink with anyone living or dead, who would it be and why?
It's a really simple one. I got engaged recently to my wonderful partner Verity. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much. She's my person, and without doubt, the only person I ever want to eat burgers or go for a drink with is with Verity. But to top it off, if we could bring our cat with us, it's a win all round. No need for ordering on the phone on that front. We'd just have the best time. So Verity and the cat.
I love that. That's very cute. That will be clipped out and you can share it. Look what I talked about you. Okay, standard hospitality questions. Standard questions. Best hospitality experience
ever?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It's got to be Ivan Ramen in New York.
Yeah.
And
I've had awesome things about it. I think he came over here and did a JV with Sessions, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did a JV with Sessions. Then I did one in a really upmarket hotel as well for a short period of time. But what was cool was, again, it was I think it was January, and I was with Verity, and we went over and basically we're having some ramen, and he was having his leader meeting in the back office, and you can actually see him through the door.
Yeah.
So I said to the team member, I was like, can I go and say hello? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so I went over and was like, and he came out, put arm around, selfie, and we spent 5 minutes just chatting.
I love that.
And this is the coolest thing, which you hear this out of it, is I reached out to him on LinkedIn and was like, Ivan, if you ever need support in the UK, give me a holler.
Yeah.
And he reached out a little bit, and then kind of we kept talking and kind of going like that. Never led to anything.
Yeah.
But at least he's still
there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
So which is good. But
I love their connections.
But the fact that he roasts a tomato in his ramen that's the winner.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I've not had it, but I even missed it when it was here. It was so upsetting, but that's awesome. Okay, best hospitality tech. I say no self-noms because you don't have your own just yet.
No.
So best hospitality tech.
Oh my gosh! I think we were having. I think from the where we were this morning.
Yeah.
There's a bit of it feels like there's a little bit of tech bloat going on at the moment. There's so much out there. I think there's some people that I would always go to. For EPOS, it would definitely be Lightspeed. I'm just really big fans of theirs. I love the guys at TipJar for what they're doing because they're just really, really helping, hospitality workers get tips, to them, but not even just at the end of the week or the end of the month. Like they can get it the same day, which is just mind blowing.
I love the pot as well. The little option for the pot where you can keep it.
But I think that's what's so wonderful about the pot thing, and even just tapping it as you go. Is originally I wasn't a huge fan of the monolithic,
the box.
Yeah. But actually, for counter service in bars or food halls or something like that, I think it's a winner.
Yeah.
I think I've really got to know some of the guys at Aquaint. They're really wonderful. They're kind of like health and safety tracking and all on digital, but I think for more of a modern era, which is really great. And the guys at Nory are killing it, I think. And I think that'll only get...
That's out of all of those ones.
Out of all of them.
Which tip's the top?
Oh, it's got to be Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just is.
It sort of sits on top, doesn't it?
It does, because it's so interactive all the time for so many hands and so many eyes.
Yeah. I had looked at the new all-in-one iPhone with payment built in and the iPad with the payment built in.
How was that?
It looks really good. So rather than having a separate credit card machine, it's all in now. I quite like having an all-in-one terminal. They already have the iPhones, right? So you can order them easy peasy, but if someone wants to pay physically by card, that was always a challenge. But now they've changed that. I think that's going to be a massive difference.
And it takes a whole step out of the journey, right? Yep. So you're there already and it's actually done in and out. And you can even pay at order time if you need to, you after upsell. But I think it's, I think what they're just doing is just smart and it's just really, really easy to use.
Yeah, I agree. I like the team there as well. They're a good team.
Yeah, Sarah's good.
Okay, so I've given you all those sort of questions, but generally we sort of like do the little and we go back in time. And I think the interesting one here actually.
I'm worried about this.
Well, no, because what I said when I shared this to you, it was really interesting because it was like you started your. It says I'm going to read some of this because
might be wrong.
I don't. Yeah, it might be another Gary Digby.
Yeah, it might be.
So I did Elliot 1 Lombard Street. And Elliot Hill is also a marketing director at Nike and a chef.
Okay.
And one of the questions was, when you were a chef, and he goes, how did you know I was a chef? I haven't told anyone. I was like, hold on, he goes, oh, there's another Elliot Hill who's a chef.
Okay.
So anyway, so let's hope it's got. I usually ask it to keep the same Gary Digby.
Sure.
So
I think there's not many of us around. I won't lie. So,
it was like, so this is quite. I don't normally read this one out, but it's quite nice. It says from team waiter to operations leader. You started your in hospitality at age 15.
I did.
There we go. At your mum's hotel, and eventually managed one of the busiest CDIs Fridays in the world. I'm not going to say any more.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting story piece. So I want to go all the way back.
Okay, good.
So because I keep saying, it's like I asked other people, did you start in hospo? Where did you start? Obviously you did. What was it like in the beginning?
Oh my goodness. So my mum was a single parent and brought up myself and my sister. Did the best job in the world. Obviously, she's Belfast, Northern Irish.
Yeah.
So like, there's a real work ethic in there with us as a family, but also with her. And when I was 15, she knocked on my bedroom door at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And passed me a polyester lime green waistcoat and trousers that matched with the I don't know if you remember when you get the shirt collars, but it was a little bit bent down, just on the edges, and the dicky bow.
Yeah.
And I just kind of worked on her. She was a GM of a hotel in Inverness, and I basically carried the plates of breakfast.
Yeah.
I had never seen a gastro of bacon in my entire life when I was 15, and trust me, I ate a lot of bacon. But it was I learned very quickly working in my mum's hotel that because it was a very tourist area. We were in the summer. I was the richest guy in school because I was earning money at that age. I spent it all as well. I had to give half of my money every week to my mum.
Okay.
And this is when it was still like
very sensitive.
It was still like £3.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And
you got your sweets at school. So
I did, but I think the great thing was it was just fun, right? And I remember the head chef, actually, a guy called Manfred. He was from Vienna. He turned around to me one day and said, "You have this." You have the thing. And I went, what are you talking about? And he went, you love hospitality, right? And I was like, I have no idea. And he went, do you want to become a chef? And I was like, well, look, I also want to go to uni. He went, well, choose. And I went, well, I'm going to go to uni. So I went to university instead. So I started there.
Nice. Okay, so then, so you went from working there through school, all the way through school?
Yeah.
And then where was uni?
So I went to university in Dundee and studied business studies.
Yeah.
Really boring. Used about 2% of it, I think, probably by the end of it. However, I would say the key things that I took from uni was a little bit of economics, unbelievably, when it came to writing schedules, law of diminishing returns and all that kind of thing. But then also the psychology side of it was something I got really into and loved that psychology side of leadership in the future anyway.
Yeah.
But then after graduation, at that time, my sister was a recruiter with Barclay Scott back in the day. And they were like trying to recruit everybody. And I came down to London. I was going to take a year out. And I walked into a TGI, the one in Leicester Square. Yeah. When it was there, across from the old Planet.
That was the busiest in the world.
The busiest one in the world, And rather than I had a 2-1 degree, I walked in and I was like, I filled out an application form at the bar, and I was like, "Oh, look at this! It's like cocktails and dreams."
It really was.
It was like that.
It really was.
The GM
just the flares at the bar were like crazy.
Like the GM at the time was this guy called Jonathan Grenville Gray, an absolute titan in the industry then. I don't know what ever happened to him in the end, but he was scary as, but also incredibly talented at coaching people. But I did a trial shift on a Sunday, got the absolute hell kicked out of me by all the bartenders. But they offered me an MIT role. 16K a year. I flew back to Scotland, got absolutely wasted on the flight, thinking I'm an absolute millionaire. And then 2 weeks later, I started work.
Wow.
Yeah, and did 3 months training in Leicester Square, 2.5 months back at house, because obviously Fridays at the time, in their kind of heyday, it was all about putting you where you needed opportunity to grow. Yeah. So they put me in the kitchen. So I spent 2.5 months in the kitchen, then a couple of weeks out front of house. And then when I moved, after my training finished, I actually ran a kitchen for 2 years.
Oh, so where did they move you to?
I moved to Kingston, not as glamorous, but Kingston at the time was taking about 100K a week. So on Fridays was, Saturdays were all about 25K. Yeah. The servers were on commission. That was the thing. So the dubs, as they were called, would get £1 an hour and 10% of all their sales commission. So, getting somebody to pick up a double was not challenging. Yeah. But yeah, it was just the training, the people, the culture.
So what was your role in Kingston?
I was back of house manager.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I learned a lot in that period of time. And then, just kind of worked my way up to GM. And then I was there for about 4 years.
So in Kingston?
No, I moved around, went to Covent Garden as AGM, went up to Scotland for a little bit, and then came back and finished up in London. Yeah.
What was your favourite one to work at?
I think Kingston was a cultural, real kind of growth part for me, but where I kind of started doing well was Covent Garden, because it was AGM and it was so high profile. It was before, when Blue Water opened, this is really going back, Blue Water started taking like 250k a week in a mall, so that was just not heard of, really anywhere in Europe at the time. And that was the biggest mall in Europe, I think, when it opened.
Yeah.
But it was just, I think, you bled red and white, right? So, and I think when I came out of the kitchen, I probably was partying a little too much. And I remember my GM at the time, a chap called Ian Aldridge, he was wonderful. And he gave me my first real leadership lesson. And he was just like, Gary, you've got 2 weeks to sort it out. Like either fix it or you're going to end up being the busser manager. I don't really ever want to be the busser manager. So that was the first time I actually turned around and got the team together. I had 12 bartenders and went, this is what's been said to me directly. What do you guys want? And they went, well, we want you to be our leader, and actually we want to make that work. So all of a sudden, between the 13 of us, 14 of us, we just started working together. And we ate together every day. We partied every day. We do the bar together every day. And there was no head of the team, even though I was a manager or whatever you want to call it. But we just did it all together. And we went from, I think, there was always gradings of the bar teams, and we were pretty low down. But I think within a year we went to second, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, that was a
real
community,
isn't it? I guess.
Do it was just of its time. It was the place, and I suppose I got there a little late. So this is like 97 to 99 to 2000. So I think even the age group before then was even more, kind of culturally rich. But yeah, it was a fab time. I loved it. Yeah,
the one. At Northwest, like the one in Mill Hill for me was like when I was 20. 20 years ago, more than 20. Jesus, I'm old. I remember going there, and my mates working behind the bar and trying to flare and have that. It was just fun. It was so much fun. So, but I think they're turning it around now. Everything's changing.
I kind of know Simon. Who's heading Simon Wilkinson, who's heading that whole transformation for Real. Right?
I'm excited for it.
So am I, and I hope it works. I know they had their rebrand recently, and you look at these wonderful legacy brands that are really doing that. Prezzo are killing it. Like I'd love to see what their percentages are. I don't think they'll share it, but then it'd be great to see what Fridays are doing. I think Fridays haven't quite been as loud, as Prezzo, and they need to be. I think what I'm learning in particular is be loud if you want to be. There's no point in keeping quiet because somebody else is going to do it. So, I'd love to see how they're getting on.
Okay, so what happened after Fridays?
What happened after Fridays? So, I had a bit of a tragedy in my life. My dad passed away. So I took some time out, grew a bit of a beard, bartended in America.
Oh, really?
I did, yeah. My sister lives in New York, so I'm really lucky. Spent some time over there. Kind of getting the love back a little bit because I just wanted some time out.
Hospitality in America is so different.
It's a different world. They do a thing over there called guest bartending. So they do it on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays when historically your bar is quiet.
Yeah.
So you'll go and bartend. You've got to bring 10 people with you, 10 friends or whatever, and you just earn your tips. So there's no money involved. And you work aside for 4 hours. So my sister worked in Midtown.
That's so cool.
It is really cool. And if we did that here, it would be a great thing, but tips don't roll that way. So my sister at the time was working in Midtown in the Chrysler building. So she got me a guest bar spot in this place called Public House. It was proper Midtown City, kind of like, rah, rah, rah. I went in there and I was like, what the hell am I doing? I've worked this corner. But it was great because one, the accent went far. And it's $1 a drink, right? So, and I did 4 hours and went out for some drinks afterwards with some of the other bartenders. And then they were like, there's a gig going on here, there's a gig going on there. It was completely illegal. But I think the great thing was, I remember they said, come back tomorrow. And I was like, oh, well, I need to bring 10 friends. And they, don't worry about that.
Nice.
And they gave me my first envelope, the next day. And there was $480 in it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa, so, and, it was wonderful. So, had that time there. Lucky that my mum and stepdad lived in Turkey for 20 odd years until recently. So I then just kind of, after being in New York, spent 6 months, I think, in Turkey. And just got a tan and kind of got fit and just had a good time. And then I was like, right, I gotta sort this out. So I then kind of went back to the UK, went back to Scotland where I grew up as a kind of teenager into adulthood.
I'm sorry, accent?
Yeah,
it is like a whole fusion.
Yeah, I know.
Like some words are tweaked in. It's just I don't hear any Scottish at all.
Well, do you know something? When I used to drink, like I don't drink anymore, but like after a couple of pints, it would either be Irish, Scottish, or English. So, so I've been really lucky that I've been able to live abroad a lot as a teenager. My stepdad was in the army, so we lived in Germany for 8 years.
Wow. 8 years?
Yeah. When I was until I was 12.
Yeah.
So, and then we moved to Scotland. So, but originally we lived in Northern Ireland after living in London for a short period of time. So it was when we moved to Germany, I had this broad Northern Irish accent.
I'm sure people can understand.
Yeah, and then when I went to uni, I lived with 5 Irish guys. So I think it's just over time. Anyway, so I ended up working for All Bar One, Mitchells and Butlers.
Yeah, M&B.
Yeah, M&B, love them dearly. I kind of what did I do? I took over Glasgow, All Bar One.
Was it a big one?
Do you know something? It kind of was and it wasn't. I think it had a kind of bit of a journey.
Yeah.
And then this is pre-smoking ban, which is so weird to think about it. And it was just as it was coming in, and and I just took the approach where the ops guy was wonderful. He was just like, just do what you want, kind of thing. And I just learned from the Fridays thing, which was, if you want to double your sales, just make the sections smaller.
Yeah.
So I took a restaurant mentality and put it into an All Bar One. And again, we went from doing, I think it was 30K a week to about 50 very quickly.
Yeah.
This is 05, 06.
And did you take the leadership stuff that you'd learned in TGIs?
Absolutely. And again, so what I like to do, which wasn't really an M&B thing, was I moved people around where their opportunity lay. So the managers who were out front of the house, I put them in the kitchen, and they didn't like it, but they, after 3 months, they were like, I really understand why.
Yeah.
So, because it's the engine, it's where you learn. And, like, I love to cook now. And that the 2 and a bit years experience back out I had, I think set me for forward. Because, cleaning a back dock at 7 a.m. when you're hungover and, somebody's smoking and, if you're not doing it, but getting somebody else to do it, you learn.
Yeah, the appreciation's there, right?
You do. And I kind of remember, I don't know if we're doing time, but I think, I'll share this story I've told many times to many people that I've worked with is are we all right?
Yeah. Check the connected device. Hold on. This one, which is normally the camera that works really well, has decided to go off. So I'm just gonna press record. It's all good. That one's still going. That's why there's no space on the memory card, you see. So just bear with me.
No problem.
This is my little camera that I just checked it a second ago with a previous one. What's this one?
If I'm yakking on, just say I can always cut it short.
No, you're absolutely fine. I need to get rid of that one, which I know I have. Delete. There we go. No, you got loads of time. Don't worry about the time. Okay, you got plenty. All right, here we go. Let's do record. There we go. Don't worry about time. Most people, it was about an hour or something like that, right? So it's all good.
So I'll start that a little bit again.
Technology challenges. Yeah. Number 2.
So I'll tell you a little story that I've told.
It's all right. I'm doing that one over. There we go. Okay. Tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story that I've actually told quite a lot of teams or leaders that I've had working with in my career, and I wasn't having a great time back in house and not really performing very well, and it was a busy Saturday night, and I had jumped onto saute, which was like the pan section, cooking loads of pastas and things like that. And the saute chef, Felix, was this little guy, really wonderful. And he turned around to me and he went, "Do you know why the guys in the kitchen don't like or respect you?" And I went, "Sorry?" And he went, "Do you know why they don't like or respect you?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Come on, Gary." And I was like, "No, but I'm the manager, right?" And he was like, "Doesn't matter." He went, "Like, do you know how many kids I have?" And I went, "No." And he went, "Do you know what team I support?" And I went, "No." And he went, "I support Chelsea and I've got 2 kids."
Yeah.
And he went, "If you just spent a little time with each of us, things would change." And I kind of had a bit of that was probably a real self-reflect moment. And I've told this story often, but it changed how I led, like the next day. And rather than then going in the next day and go, "Who do you support? And how many kids have you got?" I just gave people time, that they either wanted or they didn't, and stood beside rather than above or along. And
it's being part with the team rather than on top of them.
It changed everything. We went from poor performing to high performance very quickly, and that was
because I guess you could lean on people more, right? And they can lean on you. I think there's a big. It's hard. Hospitality is hard anyway, right? Kitchen's hard. Front of house, it's all hard, and it is. Yeah. It's not an easy job, but the gratification piece is there. If you're able to do good leadership, then it sort of drills down to the rest of the team, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing that I've learned about leadership is it's not about me. It's nothing to do with me. I'm paid to do it, but it's about my team. And if my team can do well, then I'm going to do well. And it's not about, again, if I'm successful or not. As I like to think I've done well wherever I've worked, but I actually get the joy I get is seeing them develop and perform and do really, really well.
Yeah,
and it's something I've always cared about.
So then, okay, so now we're at M&B.
Yes.
So how long you were at All by One for?
I was at All by One for about 3 years. I then went over and looked after the Edinburgh site in George Street for a little while. And then I was dazzled and attracted to Tiger back in the day.
Yeah.
And
which one?
Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Yeah. So, and again, that was like, at the time, high volume. I think we took like just under 1 million in Christmas that year.
Those venues were just crazy.
Well, people would go in at midday and leave at 4 a.m. So during Christmas in particular, and it was a very Christmas-led base. And I think at the time it was they knew what they were doing, and it was smart. It wasn't quite the level of quality that I prefer as a leader. I think it's hard to lead something or sell something if you don't really believe in it. And I think so. I was there for about a year, and then learned. But I did it. I've been quite specific about places where I've worked, so I could get experience in that sector of the market. And that was late night, and I hated doing late night.
Yeah,
absolutely hated it. And like I said,
lots of very drunk people.
And then I kind of after that time, I moved back to London actually, and went to work for Geronimo Inns, which is now owned by Young's. It was I think 12 or 13 sites at the time, and there at that time as well they had pigeon on their menu, and no one really did. And it was during the recession crisis, and at the time, again, the owner, Rupert Cleverly, wonderful guy. He was involved with Hennessy and also, what are they called? Hippo Inns, and like really, really kind of a bit of a visionary, super rich, wears really pink trousers, but gets it and knows what people want.
Yeah.
And during that time when it was, again, this was a brilliant learning where everybody was cutting, everybody was like saying, slash for labor. He was like, here's another 5%.
Wow.
And we were like, why? And he was like, well, because, if you nail Monday through to Thursday with 1 or 2 extra people on, people who are out have the money to spend, but they'll remember and they'll come back. And they did. And we were in double-digit growth, during that period. So I was really lucky with Geronimo. I worked at Heathrow for them, believe it or not, and ran their Terminal 1 site when it was still there. And that was a beast. But again, put the restaurant mentality into a pub in an airport and hired hosts, buses, rather than it being a pub and order, here's a spoon, order at the bar.
Yeah.
My goodness. So our sales pretty much doubled.
So interesting.
And then went to look after the Bull in Westfield. I think it's still there, now Young's. And that was great because, places like malls, places like airports, they're so formulaic. And if you nail that formula, but add the hospitality to it.
Get the consistency in there.
You will absolutely nail it. So again, downstairs in the Bull, if I remember rightly, we had a bar. There was like a centerpiece bar. I don't think it's there anymore. But I hired 2 drinks runners, and sales, go up, and it just made that little extra touch point for people. And it was a great experience at Geronimo.
So interesting taking the restaurant idea into wet-led.
Right.
Because back then there wasn't the technology to do it.
No.
But you've added the concept of bringing the buses in, bringing an easier way.
Yeah.
It's
just turning and burning.
Yeah.
And something I think you probably take the heat on labour initially, but it works.
Yeah.
And it kind of still does as long as you really nail it down.
Yeah.
And just about taking that risk at the right time to ensure that it happens. I wouldn't do it in every business, but I think places like the Bull and the Teen Goose, as it was called in Heathrow, they were screaming for it because there was money on the table being left.
Yeah, and people are waiting, right?
Yeah.
And if you can get the drink in before they're going to run.
Well, it's a little bit like, some of the things I've seen recently is that, I definitely want tech to be able to, if I'm ordering a table, I want to be texted within 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, do you want another round? Or
yes.
Or just press yes. And,
to reorder.
Yeah. And I'm like, cool. That's because you'll get, nobody's done anything, right? No. But you'll order it. Because
100%. The amount of times that my wife will ask for that second glass of wine, and she looks up and they're not there, and she's nearly finished her food. She wants to eat it with her food. It'll be missed. Or that cocktail. My friend's waiting for the cocktail, hands up waiting, when they could have just, and they won't necessarily, if they're scanning, they might not do it. But if they get prompted, I spoke to someone a little while ago actually. they got some high-end restaurants, and we were talking about an e-ink tablet on the table. It's not like an iPad, so it's not bright in your face. But imagine having an e-ink tablet that just prompts you. That's such a cool idea.
I saw something similar to that actually at Toronto Airport. Yeah. I was flying out of Toronto back to the UK, and you know what it's like in the US and Canada anyways. There's one bartender for 500 guests, you know, but they know it. Like, how do they know it? But it was literally, you were prompted with every opportunity at the bar, but you were still at a sports bar. And it was easy, and the food came, and it was delicious, and the drink was nice, and all that kind of stuff. But again, we just don't have that quite yet. Yeah. But I think the other point to that is if you think about the, you know, ordering screens or QSR screens that you can go to, and you know, it's that silent upsell that you'll do anyway. Yeah. And you feel if I was prompted, do you want that side of fries? Yeah, man. Yeah, of course absolutely. I do. You know, so
the nice thing is on the kiosk thing is that no one's really looking at you.
No.
So the ATV, obviously, I think it's like 40% ATV, whatever they call it. It's really interesting because I've actually seen my friends as well. I'm like looking over at what they're doing. It's like, oh, I want the extra. I got the large. Yeah. No one's seeing. I don't want to say it out verbally, but I'll go for the large. No one's going to see it. I won't tell anyone. And then you go collect it. So it's very interesting on that sort of side. I think the only challenge that we've seen is just loyalty on kiosks is still there is a new kiosk over here. It's a Dutch company called James with a Z, and they've done some really cool stuff with the loyalty in the kiosk. So if you scan, for example, you get this sort of animation that comes up. Okay. No clunkiness. It's just all integrated. Yeah. I want that to be here more prevalent.
Yeah. But I think I don't use kiosk screens very often. I don't eat a lot of fast food, right? So I think my body's a temple, but it has to be sometimes because I'm getting to that point. But I think the only time I'll ever go to, I don't go to McDonald's very often, but I'm telling you now, you go and get a double egg McMuffin, sausage egg McMuffin, no bun, no, and the cheese, protein-wise, it's great for after a workout. Yeah. So you do that on the kiosk, it's wonderful, and off you go. So, but again, even when you do that, it's such a great, institution like McDonald's it's a forced upsell rather than a natural one. Yeah. So you add this for this, add this for that, and the only kind of thing I've ever seen at the end is, do you want to add money to charity? Yeah. There's nothing worse when it comes to kiosks than the old, W.H. Smith style. Do you want a block of, chocolate to go? Yeah. Oh, please, no. But I think, but I can't even remember where we got to on that. But I just think it just needs to be a bit more seamless and natural. I think that's what's missing, a bit organic. But the time after Geronimo, I had a wonderful time with those guys. It's really cool. I loved that I could wear Converse every day and all that kind of thing. And then I did a bit of a short stint with SSP. Service Partners. I kind of was used to travel hubs, so I helped support the teams at City Airport and also Stansted when it was during the refurbishment. And actually, we were the first people to put a kiosk in Burger King.
Really?
At Stansted. Yeah. And it just blew up, So I think it was like an 80K uplift in 1 week. Yeah. And then, wow. And then I went back to M&B, So
you went back?
I did. They were like, my old RBM or area manager had become an RDOD. And he said, all right, diggers, what are you up to? And it kind of went from there. So I spent some time with their PCP brand, which is the Premium Country Pubs. Okay. And their Castle, which is their unbranded business in South London. And that was great. Yeah, I had a great time. And then after that, I had a wonderful 4 years at Copper.
Copper Clubs. Yeah. How did that happen? Was it just a...
It was kind of like a lot of roles that you tend to get is people and the people director was fresh or not long into role, and I knew her from a few years ago. She's still there, Becky Rose. She's wonderful. Yeah. And she went, look, do you want to come and do a 3-month stint and help us clean up our ops? Yeah. Go to Tower Bridge, because Tower Bridge is a huge site. The igloos turn over a huge amount of money. And I went, sure. Yeah, I just wrapped up with M&B, and I was like, yeah, why not? So spent 3 months, and then that turned into 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah. Helped navigate COVID. We scaled, grew an ops team, all that kind of stuff. So it was really wonderful.
So talking about that, because that's a long time. What were some of the challenges when you hit into Copper? What did you see there? Because it's interesting outside coming in to that. Were you just at that, or was it a holistic overview for the group, or did they?
It was predominantly for ops at the time. Yeah. Because I think they were just going in the right direction. The CEO, Sue Walter, she's now CEO at Kensington Roof Gardens, wonderful leader.
I haven't been there yet.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I used to run events there back in the day.
Did you?
Yeah.
I met her for coffee a few weeks ago, and
can't wait to see it.
She's wonderful, honestly, and she just knows that business inside and out.
Flamingos not back though, are they?
No, those as well.
The flamingos aren't back. Are
no,
they?
Definitely not. No,
love the when they had the flamingos there. Sorry,
but with Copper, I think they'd gone from 2 to 6, and just want to change the leadership, and then what does that look like? So, but there was a disconnect from the ground, to the support team, and that was nobody's fault. It's just the way it morphed. So, actually spending...
It's difficult when you go from 2's not too bad, right? 3's not too bad, but to 6?
Yeah, it's the number, isn't it? Anything over 3 and you're not quite ready, it'll wobble, So I think I just helped understand. I spent more time on the floor for the first few months, and particularly in Tower Bridge, leading the team there a little bit, but also seeing holistically how we could improve ops. And then, as I said, Sue actually left the business, and then Ishai Markov, who's now the MD Soho, came in with Andy Bastidoni. And it was just like, we want to scale quickly, so let's do this, because Andy and Ishai had done that at the Ivy.
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit under Ishai's wing, but also kind of just really working alongside of him. He was wonderful because he's pretty impressive when you see him in his guise of premium eye. I always thought I had a good eye until I worked with Ishai, and then he was just like, what are you seeing? Every conversation, what are you seeing? What are you seeing?
Awesome.
And it was just like a real eye opener.
Good learning experience as well.
It was. And then the conversation stopped one day, and I was like, oh, you're not asking me? He went, you've got it. You're good. And I was like, oh, thanks, So, and then we just, and then just Copper got it right. We restructured, we worked really closely with Res Diary at the time, and Access to restructure our booking policy in the igloos. So it was a little bit at the time. Do you remember when you used to just choose whenever you wanted to go into a restaurant?
Yes.
So we cleaned that up, got it done, and the igloos in Tower Bridge within week 1 took an extra 30K, which was just crazy.
It's hard with the timings, right? If you can get the timings right, then everyone gets slots in.
Yeah, and again, letting people choose. There was, when they wanted to come in. I don't mean that in a horrible way. People can choose whenever they want to come in. But this is also when post 9 o'clock was still a thing, right? Pre-COVID. Yeah. But you'd have a gap at the table, so if there's an hour gap in between sit-ins, you're losing money. Yes, you can say, oh, hey, I've got a 2 but you've got to be off in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not an experience.
No.
That's a sit down, we'll take your money, cheers, and that's not quite what Copper is. Realistically, from Hugh Osman and from the team, if I remember rightly, is the goal was always, we want to be like a members club but without the fees, and be open for breakfast.
It does feel like that, though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And it's the right thing to do. And Hugh's really visionary on what he wants there. And I know with the team now, with Mark's gone in as CEO from Young's. He'll absolutely kill it really well and make it.
So where do they get? How long were you at Copper for?
4 years. We got.
It's quite a similar stint of the 4 years thing.
Yeah.
You like the 4 years?
Well, I think. Do you know something? I think 4 years is a good time.
That's a great amount of time.
I think it is, and I think what happens is year 1, right, is always about, do I fit in? Is this the right place for me? And years 2, 3, and 4 are often about, how do we make it better and where can I go?
Yeah.
And, I won't lie, I loved Copper. I absolutely loved it, and I had a great time there.
So how many locations did they end up with when you finished?
12 by the time we moved to, and we opened 3 in COVID. So,
in COVID?
Yeah, so we did Cobham, I think we redid Brighton, and then we also did Bristol all at the same time. And then at the same time, we were looking at other sites. So we got prepackaged buildings from Gap. So we took, where was it, Bath and Guildford, and also Hazelmere. Yeah. And then got all those aligned during the COVID period. So, and
so what were they getting set up before lockdown to end, or what was the?
well, Cobham was the most, the general manager Jamie. He's now ops in Caravan, where we were this morning.
Yeah.
So and he was the GM of Cobham. It got delayed, and it was like, we can't get the steel from Germany. Everyone's got COVID, and then as the timeline went, we had 3 days to train everybody, get everybody opened. And, at that time, it was my first real big opening with Copper. And, I remember turning around to Ishai and just saying, look, this isn't going to go well. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if this will land to where we want it to land. And he was like, are you kidding? And I was like, no, I just don't know. And I remember standing at the front and with him saying that. And he just said, well, thank you for telling me. And we opened, I think we did 120K.
Wow.
And then we closed within 7 days because another lockdown.
Yeah.
But we retained every team member. We paid everybody furlough. When we reopened, it continued that success. It was great. Really good.
So then what was after Copper?
So Copper, after Copper, what was after Copper? I actually, it was Sue Walter who recommended that I do some consultancy. And so I kind of played with the consultancy a little bit then. And she was my first client, which is great.
Oh, I love that.
Which is wonderful. I did some work with her when she was leading the team at Be Together. And then I was asked to support, this is really off kilter. An old head chef of mine said to me one day, he was like, what are you up to at the moment? I was like, well, I'm doing this, doing that. And wasn't quite sure where anything was going. He went, look, I'm working for an American firm at the moment. He said, we need somebody to help with our operations because they're moving to the UK.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, what is it? And he was like, it's a furniture shop. And I was like, I'm sorry. And so it was a luxury furniture retailer called Restoration Hardware.
Yeah.
Huge in America, $4 billion company. And I helped introduce all their hospitality outlets within a building that they refurbished and opened in Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
So, and that was quite, and then it was quite the experience.
I can imagine.
But it's a level of luxury I've never seen before. I would say the service and quality of the buildings itself is beyond anything I've ever worked in. And it was Michelin level, 100%. The food is actually more comforting. So the CEO, Gary Friedman, there's Haagen-Dazs and caramelized bananas on the dessert because he had that when he was a kid, and that's really important to him. And also Susie's birthday cake that gets shipped over from America because it's only made in one store in the US. And it's just honestly another level, but it was the level of service. It was, when we were talking this morning and listening to the guys at the event this morning, it was taking me back when they were talking about those touch points and what they taught you at RH was how to manage a table, but without knowing and not knowing you're there.
Yeah.
And moving things around and not being scared to move a water bottle if you need to put a plate down. And luxury language. Do you know how many times people say, at a table? And if you're spending £80 on one piece of food, and it's very small, then actually maybe that's not quite where you want to go. So we learned very quickly to say absolutely rather than yes, or rather than nodding there, and how you held your hand and how you poured the water. And the head of hospitality when we did the opening was a gentleman who used to be the CEO of the French Laundry in California, and Eric Lillevoix. And when we did the opening, it was insane. This guy was another 3-star Michelin, and just watching him, kind of understand and break everything down. I flew out to New York and spent a week in their guest house in meatpacking, and I landed straight to the site, really old school in that front. Did a 16-hour shift, thought I was going to cry by the end of it. And but we were trying to get to a solution of caviar service. And and then it was like, could we 3D print something that would hold the caviar dish? So, and then it's see-through, so you can't tell it's within the ice. But we need a little pipe that will actually drain the water at the same time, so people don't realize it's ice. And I was like, and I'm standing there going,
genius.
I was like, I used to work at Copper.
Yeah.
So, and then when we did the breakdown of how we wanted to deliver the tea service in one of the rooms in the house, we spent nearly 3 days talking about butter knives. And it was insane how, so we had all these different array of butter knives in front of us. And I think we went with the Saint Bonnet in the end. And, just the way this knife curved, just got a little extra cream out, but also it was smoother to touch.
This is crazy.
I know. But that was just, to me, as an operator.
Great learning experience.
Oh, honestly, Adam, it was a challenging time. It was the hardest opening I've ever done. Opening night, we'd had 2 days to get ready, and I think we had 2,000 people turn up. Idris Elba was DJing, Ellen and all that. All those guys were there. And we just weren't ready. But we got it over the line. But it's a level of luxury I've never seen before. Yeah. And then when I just kind of didn't really feel like that was going to go anywhere. So I kind of went back to the consultancy and really got my head into Digby and Fox and kind of started going, actually, there's something I can do here. So that's where we are now.
And okay, so now let's talk about...
Long story.
Yeah, that's great. Listen, it's so interesting because you've dipped into so many different facets that helped sort of build you and your knowledge. Because not everyone has it's super interesting. You've got loads of different knowledge from high end to super high luxury to M&B to Tiger. Right. There's a huge different aspects to see what's happening, and it's really nice to see that across the board, and people understand the history. I love the journeys. The stories is one of the most important thing about what we do, because no one knows. You'll meet someone and they may have seen you on LinkedIn, but they don't know your story. And you've got a great story, to be fair. So I'll give you the uncut. You can put it on your website.
Yeah, thank you.
And congratulations on the website.
Thank you.
Digby and Fox, the name, how?
So my sister's surname is Fox.
Okay.
And she has nothing to do with the business.
Yeah.
She's a VP in.
Until she sends you your little document saying, where's my shares?
Exactly. I cook when I go to America and so she's happy with that. But it just sounds cool, and it does, and it kind of there's a nice ring to it. I didn't want it to be. I don't know. I just wanted it to be short, snappy, and kind of rememberable, if that's such a word. And I've even shortened it more recently to Digby and Fox, rather than Digby and Fox Hospitality Consultancy, whatever you want to call it. So it just kind of works. Yeah.
I've seen a big uptake in posts.
Yes.
So we do this thing in the US. It's called digital hospitality, and I'll share the links with you later. And they're very much about being present. And one of the terms is, what is it? Be the show, not the commercial, and basically be present and consistent. So I think one thing I have to say is that I actually prefer, like, something will come out of Propel.
Yeah.
And you're like right on it, and I'd rather read yours than the generic post that comes from it than have to click the link, because you literally will summarize it and post it. So I have to give you props to do that. I wish I had time to do more. Like, people are doing it for me, which is great. So I don't have to do it. But so, what was that on the journey? How did that start? Where did you be like, right? Because you weren't always posting on LinkedIn.
No,
you're quite quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, and then explosion. Yeah. So where did that come from? What was the thought process?
Well, I was working with a client, and I was kind of I'd learned to bucket the offer of work in the right way, so that the contracts I get are lengthy, so not too long, but anything between 9 and 12 months is a sweet spot, right? So for any consultant. So and it was kind of coming to the end, and I was thinking to myself, I don't have any other clients right now, so how am I going to get that? And there was one day I was just sitting at home and thinking, looking at everybody else's stuff on LinkedIn, and I'm, not an expert at that at all. And looking at everything that was being done in hospitality, I think we had just met via the client I was talking to previously, and I was just like, how can I do this slightly differently? So I just didn't look at anyone else's stuff on hospitality. I just went, I've got to do it a different way. Yeah. So I started following all the AI content creators. There's a guy called is it Ruben Hassid? He's incredible. And a guy called MJ Landy. And just started following their kind of little snippets of things of how to use certain things. Yeah. And even just, have you done this? Like, if you said to me 6 months ago, carousel, I'd be like, at the playground or, or at the fair, know. And, you kind of then and then I started following this incredible marketeer called Amelia Sordell. And her kind of tagline is, F it, just post it. And it's true. Yeah. It's just, you got to be like, do you know something?
Don't overthink it.
F everybody else. Yeah. You got to do what's right for you in your own voice. And, if people like it, great. If people don't, okay, that's no problem. Yeah. Because there's enough room for everybody. Yeah, 100%. And I think what I love about a lot of people who are moving into consultancy and doing consultancy and hospitality at the moment, we're all in our own space, and that's okay. It's like, I kind of don't want to do what they're doing either, and they probably don't want to do what I'm trying to do. But I just learn about the right type of voicing, the right type of, but then it was the tools that I could then link to that to be able to create that content. Yeah,
no, it's really, I really like it. The imagery, I will say, is something, probably one of my favorites out of the other ones that I've seen. Some of the videos are so hilarious. I've done some, we sponsored the CompSoc event, and we did the Wi-Fi there. And I was trying to create I was using Sora. I was trying to create and I got a really good prompt, trying to create someone like in a competitive socializing venue. And I got a really good image created. So sort of did a beautiful image. And then I asked it to convert it into video. And the first 2 seconds were awesome. Yeah. And then in the 5th and 6th second, the woman had morphed into a man and had 2 elbows.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, this isn't going to work. So it's really difficult, but there are some really, there's some new, much better tools out there.
It's kind of, there's also a part of you where you don't want to share it, right? Yeah. But actually, what I've learned from doing stuff on LinkedIn, you start sharing some things and actually people appreciate it even more. Yeah. So the animator I use is called Kling, Kling AI.
Yeah, Kling's great.
It's incredible, and it has a link to DeepSeek to create a prompt for you from that picture. Oh, nice. And you can tweak it anyway if you want to, and it's just, so all my images are doing ideogram, and there's a chat GPT within the GPTs that help create the prompts for ideogram. Yeah. But also, I went to an event with 68 people not too long ago. I think it's Charlie who was kind of leading everything on AI, and what's really made it a lot easier, he spoke about dictation rather than typing.
Yeah.
You know, because one, it comes in your brain quicker, and also it can go there.
Very interesting.
So rather than using actually the dictation on ChatGPT or whatever, is Whisperflow. I don't know if you've seen it. So Whisperflow is basically a dictation tool, which they're building an app for iPhone at the moment. I wish they would do one for Android, because everything I use Windows or Android. But yeah, I literally now just have my old school, headphones clinked into my tablet and my laptop, and just talk it through, and then just building.
I love that. That's really clever. It is interesting because when you're talking about it, you're more passionate, and the words come out very differently from your brain typing.
Well, the thing is, your brain might think, "Oh, I want to do a poster of London, black and white with longitude and latitude."
Yeah.
But you can just go, actually, give me a backdrop of London, black and white, monochrome, with this on the outside, and then it goes,
that's
and I think
clever.
That's where it kind of becomes even more intentional,
Well, it understands your tone of voice as you're talking to it.
But I think, as we spoke about this morning as well, is training your own GPTs.
100%
is the key, as well. So I've really got into that, and also I think I've got about 8 that I use.
I would actually say you could probably create one and monetize it and make like a hospitality consultant GPT, because I was speaking to someone the other day that's made like an Instagram one, and you could probably do that.
Well, let's talk after.
Yeah.
But I think, because that's actually what I think is Ruben Hassid did. He did a thing called EasyGen, and it was helped to create prompts, for posts for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I signed up to that at the start, and I was like, okay, and it would regenerate, every time you wanted something different. But it was $60 a month,
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, well, I don't mind it, because actually it's better than my brain. But then it wasn't quite my tone, it wasn't quite my voice. And then I learned about creating your own GPT, and then I was just like, why am I paying $60 for it?
Yeah,
it's here. So,
true.
And then I actually morphed that into his voice and an EasyGen breakdown, and then kind of taught it about Digby and Fox and how I speak. And
So it's super interesting. So the one thing I do like is there are so many consultants now. So and it's helping all these operators who just don't have the time, because resource is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day they weren't, and it wasn't. They were like free, and they were freaking expensive, and it was a nightmare. And you'd be lucky to get someone. And now the thing that's really nice in hospitality is everyone knows someone who knows someone.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 degrees of separation, right? So I've got a problem with this. And then we're like, I know someone who can do that. And you were talking about the partner thing.
Yeah.
I think that's I love that. I love the partnership as well. And I think one of the stats was like 80% of people in hospitality will ask someone else or their colleagues, what do you know?
Yeah.
They won't go online and look.
No.
They won't go online and research for it because they want someone to vouch for them.
But if I trust you and you trust me, and I go, hey, this would be really cool. Like we spoke this morning about one of your cameras.
Yeah.
I was straight on to, trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that, I think the partner things that I've been working with recently is that I don't want a million of them. I want maybe 5, 6 who I really trust, and then they trust me, and then so that if that opportunity comes, then it's not a hard sell. It's not about the sell. It's about, I know something that really, really works. It's really, really great, and it'll make your life better. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, this is very exciting. So I think let's have a look. What do you think is coming next? What do you think? What's next in hospitality? What do you think is coming next in hospitality?
In tech?
Yeah.
I think it was interesting hearing Tom speak this morning about forecasting. I think that being really cleaned up and nailed down. There's also a part of me where I really want to see the labor tools almost auto work it out for people on the ground in the right way. So if it's working alongside the forecasting, it can tell the future and go, you're not going to make it this week, 20%, you need to cut 12 hours.
Yeah.
But these guys, because it's all linked into your HR stuff as well, is you can't take hours from John, Jimmy, and Sam, because they've not done enough hours this week.
Yeah, one thing I do like is, so the Norys and the Tenzos of this world sort of do it. I think Tenzo probably does a little bit better, because they pull in more data. I think they are now integrating into the labor to make changes. I think that's coming, or that's now, I don't know if it's live or not, but that's something that's really interesting.
Well, I spoke with Nory about that earlier on this year, and they're working tirelessly at it, I know, but I think it wasn't quite there. And I think, I remember chatting to, I think, Sean there, and I was going, give it a year and you'll be all over it. And I think that's really the next step. I think, so for me, there's that. I also think a little clarity on things, but I think, again, we were talking about, what do you actually use as your GPT or whatever kind of tool or LLC, and you were saying you use Claude, and I used Perplexity initially, and I was blown away by Perplexity, and then but they're changing so fast.
Everything's going
so quick.
Yeah,
it's just hard to keep up, and what do you and everything's described. So and yes, you can cancel and get within a month, but
I've now been getting my Revolut card and getting a temporary because I forget. I'll completely forget, and I'll sign up for something, and then so what I've done now, because they are cheeky. They'll either won't remind you. You'll go for your 14-day trial, and then they'll charge you for a year or something stupid. So I now have a Revolut card, and I will freeze it once I've signed up. And if I want to keep it, I won't freeze it. But that's what I've been doing recently, and that's helping me a little bit, because otherwise my ops team, my accounts team, like, where are the invoices for these guys?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I never subscribed, and then you have to ask for refunds. But yeah, there are lots of tools. It's very interesting. Okay, we've done really well, so I'm going to give you a round of applause. Thank you very much. We're going on to the final questions. So final questions are best restaurant.
Oh, ever?
You can say recently or ever.
Give me a minute. I gotta think about that.
We'll go on to the next one then. Best burger.
Best burger ever in the world. Oh my God, there's a place called I gotta say Shake Shack in New York.
Really?
That it was just because it's just.
Was it more experience, or was it just the burger was amazing?
I think the burger was amazing, but also I think I've got to try Dumbo. I know that's just opened, but I think probably about 8 years ago I had there was a restaurant group, very small in New York, called BLT. And their burger was insane. And because it was just the right cuts of meat, Wagyu, but also with a bit of chuck and shoulder chucked in.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the smashy ones?
It's for now.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than a big thick patty, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I think it's fine, but the aesthetic's not quite there.
Yeah. Best hotel?
The Hoxton in Chicago.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back to the best restaurant?
Best restaurant I've ever been into.
What could be recently?
Recently, it's a hard one. I don't want to say something cheesy like something.
You can say whatever cheesy you want. One of our last, he put in I think hickories, because his kids love it and they had a great time. So
it's not even in the UK. But I think we did a 4-day hike in Turkey years ago. It was like twice the size of Ben Nevis. Came down. We were all acting like we were hadn't eaten for weeks. And this kind of corner store that just did rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
And that's all they had was rotisserie chicken and shepherd's salad.
Yeah.
And fresh bread. And that's probably the best hospitality, food, and enjoyment I've ever had anywhere.
Yeah. You're probably starving too.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so before I do the 2 questions for the next guest, how do people find you? Where do they obviously, I don't know. It's not hard. You can just find you on LinkedIn. But I'll let you do a shout out to where people find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, absolutely. Let's just search Gary Digby. There's not many of us. Or you can also look at Digby and Fox. So there's that. And also our website, www.digby-fox.co.uk.
Amazing. So let's do the 2 questions for my next guest.
Okay.
Could be ops or marketing or owner operator.
Okay. How do you think AI will change the landscape for marketing in the future?
Okay, nice.
And the second one, it can be anything as well.
Anything.
Is what is the if you had the opportunity? Oh no, that's a ridiculous question. Is this going to go out?
It's all good.
What is your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Okay.
But not like.
What's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
I love a Bevito.
Okay.
Because it's just I like a spritz. Again, when Verdi and I first started dating, we loved. Have you ever had Pampel?
No.
It's a pink grapefruit liqueur. So and we went to Mercato Metropolitano when it was open, and they had Pampel spritz, and we were like, oh my god, we were like living our best lives when I used to drink then, and it was just delicious. And I still love a spritz, but the Bevito do non-alcoholic. You can get non-alcoholic. Prosecco or champagne or whatever, and they just land.
I struggle to find good, non-alcoholic champagne.
Well, it's interesting. I've been talking to some guys in a company. They're actually making a non-alcoholic sparkling wine.
Oh, nice.
But for almost like for sports kind of people, so they can have a few drinks and then feel good the next day. It's called Wind Up, and they're early stages, but it's a wonderful opportunity. But also in America and Germany, they're really ahead of the curve with non-alcoholic.
Really?
Yeah, bubbles in particular.
Yeah.
And I've always had this thing where actually a very close friend of mine, she's an incredible sommelier, and we actually wrote a non-alcoholic wine list. and how that could work
really
in a restaurant. And I think that, you know,
I've really struggled to find. So I struggled to find. I might have to hit you up with some.
But you know, I think the thing with that is I think there's a gap in the market with that, and I think if you
beers is easy. Like beers, there's loads. There's loads of non-alcoholic beers. There's loads of zeros.
Yeah.
I think there is. You're right. Huge gap in the market to find a good.
But I would love to run a little space or oversee your own or whatever, or see someone do it where there's no alcohol whatsoever, and it is literally all low, not even low, all non.
Yeah.
You know, and like 3 cocktails, you know, let's not go too mad, but a really wonderful curated wine list with all non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
And a couple of beers, you know, if you really, really need it. And I just think that would pair so much smarter with the food rather than, you know, because I don't drink anymore. I don't enjoy it anymore. And I couldn't even attempt to do a hangover.
Yeah.
But I just think that as a consumer now in particular, is a real opportunity.
Yeah, I think it'll be a game changer, especially. All right, amazing. I'm going to give you another round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam.
We can wave goodbye to the GoPro because the GoPro is still recording because it's still working. But thank you very much for coming.
No worries.